Welcome to the Cashflow Project podcast. Are you looking to better your financial situation by increasing your cash flow? Too busy to hunt for real estate deals or don't know where to start? Then you're in the right spot. Join us as we dive in and talk about investing for cash flow using multifamily real estate.
Welcome to the Cashflow Project podcast. I'm your host, Steve Fieros with Tri-City Equity Group. Today, excited, I've got Ken G on the show. Ken is the founder and managing partner of KRI Partners and the KRI Group of Companies. He's got more than 24 years of significant real estate banking and private equity transaction and principal investing experience. Throughout his career, he's been involved in transactions valued in excess of $2 billion, much of which has included acquisition management and financing of various small multifamily projects, as well as playing a significant role as a member of due diligence and transactional structure for planning teams for several private equity firms specializing in the small and middle markets. Here to tell us about his journey, Ken, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
And I know you've got a ton of experience kind of in the background too. I know you were with Deloitte and have a lot of experience kind of on the number side, underwriting side. I know you guys offer some products there too as well. So I would love to dive a little bit more into that a little bit later on in the show. But for those of our audience that may not be familiar with you and your company and what you've got going on, give us a little bit of your background. Fill us in on how you got started in real estate. Did you come from a long line of real estate magnates
No, I wish that's how it happened. No, it's actually a pretty humble beginning. I grew up in Toledo, Ohio, Northwest Ohio. If you ever watch MASH on TV, I don't know if that maybe dated me, but he always talked about Toledo, Ohio. So I got my undergrad there, moved to Cleveland, and became a commercial lender. So I spent 5 years as a commercial lender in Cleveland while getting my master's degree from a place called Case Western Reserve University. And then I became an accountant, CPA, and I went to work for Deloitte for 7 years, doing all those cool things that you talked about, all the M&A work, due diligence work, transaction planning. I mean, it was really, really cool stuff. And it was there that my life actually changed for me. It was because I'm going to blame it all on my daughter because it really is her fault. Rewind 25 years, my kids were very, very young. My daughter was just born. I used to do her 3 a.m. feeding. And I used to love that because it's 3 a.m. Everybody's sleeping. It's just father-daughter time. And I work like a dog. So it was the only real time I got to spend with her. And I felt that was really cool. Until one night I started thinking, wait a minute, you dummy. Like, this is the best you could do for your daughter is to spend 3 o'clock in the morning feeding. This is really the best you can do. And what happened is over a couple of nights, I started getting really frustrated. I'm like, man, this is not cool. Like, I followed the rules. I went to school. I got good grades. I got a good job. And here I am staring life now that I'm old enough to have a family. And I'm like, man, I don't get to spend time with my family because when you're a CPA at a big firm, you work a lot. I mean, that's just the way it goes. And so it was then that I just decided I got to make a change. I had known about real estate for, the Deloitte office that I was in at the time had a massive real estate practice. So it was not a newsflash that you can make money in real estate. So it took me forever. It took me like a year and a half because back in the 90s, we did not have cool podcasts like this or meetups or any of that stuff. I had to go to the apartment association meetings and sort of brown nose the lecturer, right? And try to get to know them and learn as much as I could. It was rough, but I'm thrilled to say that over a 3-year period or over a 2-year period, I bought 3 small deals, like 22, 25, 28 unit deals and sold them in 3 years and made $500,000. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. What just happened to me here? So I'm still working at Deloitte, doing this little real estate thing on the side. And in Cleveland, no less, I sold those 3 deals and made $500,000. I said, man, how do I not continue to do this forever now? So Fast forward 25 years. I mean, we have done 18, 20 deals. We've raised $40 million from hundreds of investors. And so here we are. I'm very proud to tell you that I almost never missed her basketball games or his baseball games or any of that stuff. So mission accomplished, but that's kind of a weird way to get into this business, but that's kind of what happened.
No, and I love your story. That's what I was going to ask you too. I'm like, well, how much more, bottles did you get to tend to after making a little bit of money? And I'm sure you got a chance to spend some more time with the kids. So that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, she weaned off the bottles by that time. Right. But yeah, it was just the thought of having a family and having everybody do everything and you at work, making it possible for them to just make, man, I don't want to be left out of that. And that was really important to me. That was really the driving force. And I made the right call. I'm really glad that I did.
That's great. And like I said, that's encouraging to hear because I think a lot of people are in that boat, like where and you've got, that's a great job, like for a CPA. I mean, you're working at Deloitte. I mean, that's, that how many people like it? I'm it. That's it. I
I
got
know.
where I'm doing what I need to do. Like, this is it. I'm going to be here for the next 30 years or whatever and live the life and work towards retirement. And that's it. I'm good. But I think you saw kind of that wake up call, and we all need a driving motivator, right? We need that driving force behind us to kind of keep us going. And you saw that thankfully early on. You
Yeah.
put in the time, got some experience, but most people unfortunately they don't get there until, gosh, hey, I missed my kid's graduation. And you're
I know.
all of a
Then they're
sudden you put in
angry.
all those hours. Yeah. And
Then
then you
they're
don't have a
really
relationship with them.
angry. And now they're trying to accelerate that. And you got to take this slow. Real estate's, you can make an insane amount of money in real estate, but it just takes a minute. You just got to be disciplined and lay out a plan. And so, yeah, you're right. If people wait too long, and all of a sudden now they're trying to do it in a very compressed time, and it's a lot harder.
Now, something else you mentioned there too. Now obviously you're working as a CPA there for a significant firm, and this is probably something I don't think a lot of people do. But you're evaluating. Okay, well, gosh, I know people. I see the clients' tax situations. I see their assets. I see their liabilities. I see their income. Gosh, a lot of these guys are in real estate, and I mean, you obviously already had experience being a commercial lender, so you kind of understand at least got exposure to the power of the lending side, underwriting numbers, and all that kind of stuff. But a lot of
Oh, it's
people would just
huge.
be, yeah, a lot of people would just be content. Hey, I'm collect my W-2 paycheck. Sure. I'm glad to shuffle paper. And yeah, I see what they're making. I see all of that kind of stuff, but that's for other people. That's not for me, but thankfully you were able to recognize, gosh, maybe there's something to this. I need to look more into this,
Mm.
take some control over your own future.
There it is
And
right there. That was important to me because yes, I didn't want to miss my kids' games, but I also was really worried about if you're in a corporate environment and you frustrate the wrong individual above you, it can really not work out well for you. You know what I'm saying? So
oh,
when you think
absolutely.
about that, I just wanted to be in control of my day and my life. And that I'm telling you that you hear people talk about that. A lot of people get a lot of rah-rah. I'm not very rah-rah, but this is really important stuff that you're going to have a family. You want to spend time with them and you need to be in control of your life. And I would encourage anybody trying to get into this, just do it. Just take the time to learn it the right way, though. We'll talk about that in a minute, but so
Sure.
many people just rush through this. Remember I talked about they're trying to do it in a compressed time and they don't want to take the time to learn. You can lose a lot of money in this business
Oh, totally.
if you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, no, it's a game changer, and it's a sharp sword. It's a dual-edged sword. So like you
Yes.
can lose your shirt. Real estate is a wonderful, wonderful vehicle to help build wealth for you, your family, for others, or everybody you care about. But yeah, you definitely got to know, you got to know what you do. You got to do some homework, got to lay some groundwork, make some great connections, put in the time. And then you mentioned too, having control kind of over your situation. I mean, how important more now than ever? You say, hey, I might piss off somebody else is coming. How much more today in our culture today? It's so divisive. Gosh, you
Oh
vote
my
for the wrong
goodness.
person, you say the wrong thing. Hey, you know what?
Yes. And
That's
I
it.
have a
That's it for
habit of
you.
sticking my foot in my mouth. I have a habit of saying the wrong thing at the wrong time, but
Yeah. Yeah.
so yeah, no, it's all good. That's why I said anybody that's thinking about this process, just
Yeah.
go slow and carefully and just be methodical about it. And you'll get there and you'll be glad you did it.
Well, now, so you mentioned putting in the kind of the time and the effort into learning how to do things properly. Now, obviously you're a numbers
Yeah.
guy. So coming from that kind of background, and then you also have the additional insight of working for a commercial lender. I don't know in what capacity necessarily, but that had to play it into, okay, well, hey, they used to see that they wanted to see this and underwriting and that kind of deal. Obviously as a CPA, you can work, okay, what is the package that they're going to need to see? How do the numbers need to see? What kind of DTI? What kind of DSCR do we need to kind of present to them so that we're in the best position possible to secure?
Mhm.
Like, what are the things that people need to know in order to, let's say, to properly underwrite a deal and maybe even do something for themselves too, right? Because I'm sure we can dive into a lot of the specifics here. What do people need to know? Like, what is something
Yeah.
significant, especially going maybe from residential to commercial, that they need to be aware of, let's say in underwriting specifically?
Yeah. Yeah. That's most of the people that I deal with who want to make that jump and are ready to make that jump, they've typically flipped a few homes and done well for themselves. And nothing wrong with that, but they know they can make so much more money in multifamily. And so what they have to be prepared for, what they have to prepare themselves for is the flip in what makes money or
Mhm.
how you make money. So in the single family world, you're caring about the rent comp or the sales comps around you. What did the neighbor's house sell for? Because that's going to usually dictate what you can sell an asset for. Most people unless you're selling it to another investor, that single family home is not going to be valued based on its ability to generate income. It's going to be valued based on what the neighbor's house is worth and the one next to that and the one next to that and all that, right? The whole sales comp process that they use in the appraisal world. That's not how multifamily works. Multifamily money is made based on your ability to make that asset generate more money than when you started. So it's literally a numbers game. And so I would encourage your listeners, yes, expense management is very important, but you can only make a little bit on expense management. Most of these expenses, you really don't have a lot of control over, but you have massive control over income. So what I want people to do is really, there's a reason we have an underwriting course. They need to underwrite the right way, and they need to spend the time and energy really understanding the income side of that equation. Where are your rents now? Where could they be? Why could they be? How are you going to make that happen? And that's what we teach people in our programs. But that every deal that we have made money on, and we've made money on every deal, it's because we've moved rents a lot. And so when you think about today's environment, what's happened to people over the last couple of years? Insurance rates went up, inflation has gone up, interest rates have gone up. What's the one thing that can save you in all of those situations? New cash flow. So if you do deals and they're disciplined and only pursue deals with real upside, and you know you're going to get it, that new cash flow, even though you're frustrated that insurance rates went up and interest rates went up and sure, that's frustrating, but your goal in this world is to not lose the property. As long as you don't lose the property, you just need usually let time heal that wound. But if you don't have the cash flow to support it, you're toast. So this upside thing, everybody who's in this business must always focus on that. And as you can tell, I'm a little passionate about it because it is going to make you or break you, right? That's where the money is made in our business. And if you can really understand that and then stay disciplined, don't pay more than what you should. And in our program, we teach how to do all of that. If you do that, you have really improved the chances that you're going to make money, right? So many try to fly at 30,000 feet in this business. They napkin underwriting. I'm sure you've heard it. People promote napkin underwriting. Well, that's fine. Except those people that are talking to you about on napkin underwriting, they have some accounting people behind them who are poking away and making sure all the details are right. You know what I mean? And so I tell people, if you really want to get into this business, let me ask you a question. If you're going to open a business, does it stand to reason that you should know a lot about that business and what the numbers are, what makes them work? Apartments are no different. They're a business.
Yeah. And
that's my passion here.
Yeah, no, I can tell. I can tell. And that's great though. I mean, and that's exactly what you need on your team in order to be successful. I mean, really in any business, but specifically, obviously we're talking about real estate. So commercial real estate. Can you give us some examples of how you guys have been able to maybe drive revenue and without obviously giving away the kind of any secret sauce or any of that kind of stuff, but I'm rocket science. I know, but I'm sure you guys have some go-to ways for driving income and driving revenue.
Yeah. So it actually starts with market selection. Pick a market where demand exceeds supply in terms of renters. You do that. Now I can say that because our company grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, where the opposite was true. And I'm not trying to knock Cleveland, but demand did not exceed supply in Cleveland. So it makes it hard to move rents. You get your tenant by stealing it from the guy next door, by luring them with a special. You're not going to make money that way. Instead, go to a market like some markets in Florida, probably most of them in Florida, and the exact opposite occurs. There's more people looking for housing than housing exists. That gives you some upward pressure on price. And then what I tell people is you got to figure out, how are you going to move rents at that property? Is it just being poorly managed? Sometimes. I mean, sometimes it's hard to believe, but a guy or gal has owned a property for 40 years. They have no mortgage. They really are not incented. They just want that cash flow to keep coming. So if you can find those properties, all you got to do is run them right and you can make a ton of money. Other properties, you got to go in and you got to physically improve them. It just depends on the deal as to what you got to do. But what is important is when the secret sauce here, it isn't that hard. It's think about how a prospective renter is going to look at your property when they're searching for an apartment. How are they going to look at it today? And how are they going to look at it after you physically improve it? Once you understand that and be real honest with yourself about how you fit into that mix, you'll be able to figure out how much upside you have. That then drives how much budget you can spend on the capital improvement side. So that's our secret sauce. It's called a value add strategy. I did not invent it. We just do it really, really well.
Yeah. And you guys also picked the great markets to be in too, because it's not like you just jumped in. Like you guys have been in Florida for how many years now?
15.
Right? Yeah, 15 years. So it's not like there's obviously been a little bit of a gold rush post COVID with all of the people, all the net migration happening into the different Florida markets, but you guys have been there. So like you've seen, I'm sure, you've been on the receiving end of a lot of the growth, which is, I'm sure, has been incredible. But you were obviously already analyzing that. You already saw growth trend and all of that kind of stuff. Because again, you could have picked a bunch of different markets. I mean, anywhere in the Sun Belt, it's been very popular the last handful of years, for quite a while now. What initially drew you to that market, talking about analyzing the right markets to go into? What did you guys?
It was growth. What happened was I was making money in Cleveland. We did it. We made a lot of money, but it's just tough, man. I mean, it was a battle. I mean, you woke up every day, put on the boxing gloves and you went to work, right? It's just hard to operationally to work in an environment where there are fewer renters. No, more renters. Well, all right. I got the demand supply backwards. Let's just say that, right? Where demand does not exceed supply. So I thought one day, man, we can make money here. What if we actually moved to a place that people wanted to live, that we didn't have to beg and steal for a tenant from the guy next door? And that's what started my trek to Florida. And it took me many years before I actually bought in Florida, because I'm careful, and that's just what you should do. And I got to know markets, but I knew the markets in Florida were a growth market. I was convinced that Tampa and Orlando were growing together. Well, they did, and they are. I thought Tampa was amazing. Everybody poo-pooed Tampa 15 years ago. And I thought, why? There is so much water and beauty here. Like, how can you poo-poo this market? I don't know. It just wasn't cool. I don't know why, but 15 years later, Tampa's not so poo-pooed anymore.
Yeah. You're like, yeah, that's fine. You guys can think that. I'm going to count my checks. So
that's exactly right. Yeah. So that's what drew me there. People wanted to live there. And believe it or not, you probably know this, but Florida's been growing long before COVID. I mean, COVID just put it on steroids for a minute, but it's been, even before COVID, is net in migration between 900 and 1,000 people a day. Like, man, that's a lot of people.
That is a lot of people. And guess what all of those people need? Because there's some basic necessities that everybody needs coming into a new market, a new place. I mean, they really just, no matter where you're at, and they definitely need a place to stay, a place to lay down their head and raise their family or find a job or do whatever. And so you can provide that basic necessity. You're in good shape.
Yeah. Let me put some icing on that cake. So think about this for a minute. There are 900 to 1,000 people moving into Florida. Some of those people are wealthy, right? Well, most aren't. So they're building like crazy in Florida. That's how they take care of those wealthy people who can pay $4,000 a month in rent. But get what, most of the people that are moving to Florida, they're not wealthy. They're normal people. Guess what kind of properties they need? B properties. Guess what they're not building in Florida?
Yeah.
B properties. So now you just massively got this massive demand supply imbalance, because a lot of people are coming there that need B housing and they're not building. So there's no chance that the supply is going to increase. And how do you not like that environment? Because now they put a value add strategy in place, and you're like, and your returns are nuts.
Yep. So listen to that, guys. Listen to that, to what Ken just said. It's a very simple concept. Some supply and demand. You have a lot of people coming into a given market. They need housing. Well, guess what? They can't afford top tier, brand new build, A-class construction, or they're not going to be able, hey, you're trying to get situated. You're not necessarily buying a house right off the bat, right?
Most people don't. Yep.
Correct. And to Ken's point there too, they're not building the B class, C class buildings anymore. It just doesn't pencil. We see that a lot here locally. A lot of the new construction, actually almost all the new construction that goes up now, it's all ultra luxury. It's all high end, because it's the only way that the developers can get anything to pencil now, right? Because material costs, all of the building costs and everything has gone sky high. Well, guess what? Like, the developers need to make money. They need to give a return to their investors that they're bringing on to help make this project possible. Well, if they're not going to do it with a B class property, it's got to be over the top. It's the only way that they can get the margin where it actually makes sense to do. So that creates this imbalance. where you have this excessive need for this beat class type of property, just a normal, hey, you know what? Nothing fancy, just blue collar. Hey, I just need I need a nice, clean, safe place to stay. Right. And there's just a lack of that out there now. So Kent's team and our team does it too, just in a different market. You come in, you take this property that's maybe mom and pop owned, or maybe it's long time owned, or they just haven't put in the renovations and the improvements to add the amenities that people are looking for, the freshening up and all that kind of stuff. And guess what? You get to do that. You get to create some value, start charging some more rent. Now you start driving that income part of the equation, and you can create a ton of value. And so, yeah, no, Kent's got the strategy down. No, for sure. Now, how are you guys? I'm curious, being in Florida. I mean, this is happening industry wide, but specifically, I know in Florida, insurance, like that's been a massive challenge that we're seeing in the markets that we're in, of course. And I know Florida has its own unique challenges just because of where it's at. Here in Hawaii, obviously, you have natural disaster. We've had the fire. We were talking a little bit about that a little while ago in Lahaina over in Maui. Obviously, that's driving up anytime that they have natural disasters, and multiple of them, the way that they have had nationwide, it's going to increase premium. So, but I know Florida in particular has been a more of a challenge, even than most markets, I think. How are you guys navigating those waters?
Yeah, carefully. Remember I said before, it's important that you stay disciplined on the buy, make sure you have upside. So the assets that we own, we're able to absorb the insurance costs. I mean, it's not fun, but you deal with it. I've been around for 25 plus years. This insurance thing usually goes in cycles. It just does. So what's happening right now is the reason prices are where they are is because everybody leaves the market. Like, man, I can't make money at this rate. I'm leaving. Forget this, whatever. Well, what happens now is that reduces capacity. That gives the few people that are left in the market the ability to charge whatever they want and crank up deductibles like to insane levels. Like, I don't even know how it's possible now to have an insurance claim on a named storm. I mean, I just don't get it. The deductibles are so high, the premiums are so high, they got to be printing money. So what happens when it's massively profitable? Other people say, wait a minute, I can make money now at those prices. Capacity comes back in and the cycle starts. And so now we start to get on it reducing. I will tell you, 5 years ago, I was budgeting $400 a door. Now, or for that same property, depending on where it is, if it's near the coast, you're at $2,500 a door. And that's not an exaggeration.
Yeah. Listen to that, guys. Listen to that. It's a multiple.
It's not
it's not a doubling, right? And this is the thing. And I know I've heard of operators getting in trouble for this, where it's like the deal's already a little thin going in. Of course, they didn't underwrite, they underwrote a little too aggressively for certain things. They didn't underwrite appropriately, let's say for taxes and insurance. And then you have a 5X increase like that. Like, boy, that puts so much pressure on every other facet of the business. Now nothing can go wrong if you can even still support it. And so if you didn't underwrite conservatively enough, now you got a real problem on your hands, because to underwrite for $2,500 a door, it's insane.
That's what we're underwriting. Depends on the age. Now we can get down to $1,400 a door if we're in the middle of the state and we're post 95 build. That's how picky they are. So that's a big difference. They've identified where the risks are. And when you only have 2 or 3 people to go to for insurance, well, it's their playground. They get to call the shots.
Right. But this comes back to Kent's point. This is where it's vital that you have your underwriting dialed in, because there's a lot of different factors you can control. Again, it's a business. Like, so when you're looking at commercial property, it's a business. And so you have way more levers that you can pull compared to, let's say, a flip, right? At a residential property, you're always going to be limited by, I don't care how nice you make it. You make it like the friggin' Taj Mahal. If the neighborhood and the comps don't support the value, it doesn't matter. You just wasted your money, because you'll never be able to get more for that property than what those 3 recent comps sold within the last 6 months. I mean, it's just how they have to base their values. It doesn't work that way with commercial. So you got way more levers to be able to pull to drive revenue to help to offset this $2,500 a door insurance costs when you compare it to that $400, right? So yeah. So that's so vital.
And you can see why I'm so hung up on underwriting, because it is the key. It is the key to you winning or losing.
Oh, no, totally. Yeah, and we see it too. I've had friends, people that know kind of what we do and the space that we're in. Oh, because as this stuff starts to get kind of notoriety in some of the national papers, oh,
Right.
hey, I saw this in the Washington Post or the Journal and all this kind of stuff. It's like, oh, it's just the end of real estate, and it's like the sky's falling, it's
End
too
of real
low,
estate.
and it's I'm like, no, no. I mean, you still, at the end of the day, it's still some very, very basic fundamentals that are still in play. It's still very supply and demand. Maslow's need the hierarchy of needs. There's certain things that you'll never be able to get away from, and so the real estate, investing is not it's not over. And I'm glad that you have the experience too, having been in the market for 25 years. You see this. You alluded to this. We have cycles. It happens, guys. There's nothing new under the sun. You're right. So you're going to see a lot of the same stuff over and over and over again. Right. It's all
Yeah,
cyclical. You Ken mentioned it earlier. You just need to be able to weather the storm as long as you get cash flow. Okay. Hey, you know what? No worries. Will tick back down. Insurance costs will come back down.
they
And
will.
then you can be in the, you'll be in the, and making profit again. And then, okay, great. It's time to exit. Awesome. Let's do that. So yeah. Have you run into any challenges kind of over your career where it's like, hey, some of this is learned lessons, but obviously you're a stickler for underwriting now. Was there any times that you have any, man, you know what? We didn't do that one properly. And so this is a learned lesson and we need to kind of tighten
Yeah.
this up.
Oh, I've got so many lessons that I've learned over the last 25, 26 years. I mean, it really is. Well, let's talk about, I went through the financial crisis. This is a non-real estate thing, but what did the financial crisis teach me? It taught me what happens when credit tightens. Actually, it disappeared then. That's what killed everything. It disappeared. So how do you protect against that? What should you do? It's called debt management. People getting into real estate, the last thing they're thinking about is managing my debt. What? And how to pick maturities and prepays and all this kind of stuff, all that kind of stuff. So massive lessons to be learned then. We never lost a dime of investor money, trust me, but you learn these lessons along the way. Others, how to renovate properly, what to do, what not to do, how to do it inside out, outside in. The lessons just keep going and going and going. And that's why early on, I could have had it so much easier if I would have had someone to help me, but they just didn't exist back then.
Mhm.
I mean, I got started because of a single family flipper. You're going to laugh when I say this name. You remember Carlton Sheets?
Yeah, of course.
Nobody says his name out loud anymore. Poor guy's passed, but I got his program back in the early 90s
Mhm.
and I never did a single family home, but it kind of got me started and that was it. Well, just doing that, remember the cassette tapes you put in your car and listen to them? That's how I started. And it was at best a marginal program. He taught a lot about single families, but I didn't understand numbers back then. And so what are geez, I'm trying to think of more lessons that I've learned. I mean, the list just goes on and on. Make sure you have a business plan. Make sure you understand how you're going to make money. Any business has to add value to the world to make money. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. So make sure you know how you're adding value to that property. And probably the last thing I'll talk about, this is brief, but there's a reason we stick to multifamily. There's a lot of very successful people that do office and medical and storage and blah, 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 all kinds of stuff. But I do multifamily because I can't figure out a way to make that go away. And I'm just a really risk averse person. And I can make a case for office, like office is right around the corner.
Yeah.
That's really struggling. See, I
Right.
can't make a case for you and me not needing a place to live. If
Yeah.
that's happening, my friend, the last thing we're worried about is our investment, right? We got much bigger problems than that. So stick to the risk averse assets. That's what I always encourage people to start out because they need to make money on their first deal. If they do, the world is theirs, right? If they lose money in that first deal, no one comes back. They just never do. And I don't want to see
Right.
them. So that's why I like them to stick to multifamily, do good underwriting, and make sure you're with somebody to mentor you through this process because the advice they give you is going to be invaluable.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And especially like that from somebody like you, let's say it's an experienced operator, been in the business for a long time and can calm investor fears or really just guide you along the process, just in terms of like, hey, look, it's okay. We've seen this before. If you're a new operator, a new investor, again, you haven't been through kind of some of the ups and downs. So there's never going to be an end to this, everything that's going on. It's just like this forever. And it's like, relax,
Always something, man.
relax. It is. You're right. This is
It's not
never like,
COVID, it's
okay.
inflation. If it's not inflation, it's high interest rate. I mean, not interest
Right.
rates, it's insurance. You see, the world is always full of problems. So
Right.
if you're in this
Yep.
business,
Yep.
make sure you're ready to solve them.
Yeah. And that's it. And that's it. That's kind of the bottom line, right? Like we only get compensated for the amount of problems that we can solve. So we'll find the problems, learn to solve them, and you can create a lot of value. So yeah, very good. Well, Ken, there's a point of the show where we kind of transition to what we call our fire round. It's just a little bit more straightforward Q&A. Is that something you're game for?
I'm up. Let's do it.
All right. Sounds good. All right. Well, yeah, first
Can I
question.
be afraid?
What? Yeah, that's all right. I'll take it easy on you.
All right, cool.
We're good. What's the best book that you recommend other than for real estate investors? It's the Purple Bible. It's Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and maybe Carlton Sheets. But what's the best book that you recommend otherwise?
You know, it's more about how you do things. Read 10X Rule, Cardone's 10X Rule.
Yeah.
10X something. I think that's the name of the book.
Yeah.
Then you should approach everything in life. And if you do, you'll be okay.
Yeah. And take that too. I mean, it's a great book. I've been through it. Multiple of our partners have loved the book too. Just the concept in general, right? Just that's how much more work that it's going to take, how much more effort and energy it's going to take for you to get to where you think that you are, or would you think that you're shooting for, right? You think it's going to take, I'm going to have to work twice. No, 10X that, 10X that. Yeah. So yeah, it's a great mindset book. A great read. All right. Next question. What is your superpower?
Oh, it's got to be numbers. I don't know, numbers and discipline, right? If you're talking about real estate, it's numbers and discipline. It has always kept me out of trouble.
Yeah, there you go. And it doesn't have to be so complicated, guys. If you look in the mirror, you ask yourself that question too. Don't undervalue that ability to do that, right? To analyze, to look at potential risks, right? Don't discount that, right? So like just Ken will attest to that too, right? It's not rocket science, but you do need to evaluate properly. You do need to account for those different things.
Yeah. The problem is
Right.
people make these numbers so much more complicated than they need to be. I mean, I can confuse a brand new person in 5 seconds with a bunch of
Sure.
NOI and cap rates and rate caps and DSCRs and blah, blah. You don't need to do that. This isn't that hard if you just think about it. And that's the way we usually teach it. Don't let these numbers keep you out of this game. It is not that difficult. If you can add and subtract and figure out how to turn on your computer, you'll be good.
Yep. Very good. Very good. All right. Next question. What is the biggest lesson that you've learned over your career thus far?
Ooh, if we talk about mindset, it's got to be get out of my own way, right? I have been in my own way for most of my life. I really wish I would have started to figure this out earlier. It's because you don't really have the confidence when you're younger. Maybe that's it. I don't know. But I think that's the biggest mindset lesson. In terms of real estate, I had a wonderful lady in Cleveland teach me my very first deal. I bought it. I was trying to lease it up with the person that lived on site. She was getting me bad applications. And I thought, oh my God, what have I done to myself? I'm screwed. I can't get any good people to live here. And this wonderful lady, her name was Karen. She said, Ken, you got to make this place nicer. You got to go spend $5,000 in this unit and make it nice and put in a new kitchen. I said, are you out of your mind? I just spent every penny I got to buy this place. And you want me to spend more? I mean, seriously, it was really stressful. She's like, Ken, I'm just telling you, build it and they will come. Well, I did. And what we were renting or trying to rent at $415, we rented at $599, and all amazing prospects because they didn't want to go for garbage. So huge lesson in the real estate world. That's what I actually fell into the value add business plan because of her. I haven't seen her in so long. I'm sure, hopefully she's still around, but she changed my life when it comes to real estate.
Yeah. Yeah. And like that, very simple concept, right? But something that's so significant and so profound. And that's obviously been a lifelong lesson for you. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. All right. And then for the busy working professional who's trying to work towards financial freedom, what advice would you have for them?
Yeah. Earn the money that you have. Don't give up your day job and pour it into real estate and let the passive income increase over time. There'll be a time when you can jump off and go full in real estate if that's what you want, or quit your job. I just see so many people try to prematurely bail on their first source of income in favor of this real estate thing. And it takes a minute to get this real estate thing up and running and going. So just don't give up that primary job. I did it on the side when I was at Deloitte. I bought 3 deals. Yeah, it was tough, but you know what? Everything in life worth having is tough. So just suck it up and go do it. Just don't be so quick to jump ship. wait until it's the right time. And you'll know when it's the right time. When you look at your husband or your wife and they don't want to choke you for thinking about quitting your job, you'll know when it's the right time.
Yeah, I've heard so many of stories of that over the years. Keep an eye out for the exit, but don't take the wrong exit, but don't wait too long either. So,
Yeah, exactly.
all right. Well, if our audience wants to reach out and connect with you, learn more about your underwriting and how you guys teach, what's the best way for them to be able to do that?
Yeah. So reach out to me, KGEE at KRIpartners.com, KGEE at KRIpartners.com. Or if you're serious about wanting to learn how to underwrite multifamily deals, go to multifamilyunderwritingcourse.com. It's our course. It's taught by me. We give you all of our spreadsheets, our entire system, and I commit 6 months to you, weekly calls, Q&A, because anybody can sell you a course, but it doesn't really help if you don't understand the nuances of this and that. So we're with you for 6 months. So if you're really serious about it, I want people to make good decisions. I want people to make a lot of money in this business. I don't want to see people lose money. And when they do, it's because they screw up the numbers. And I don't want to see people do that. So that's why we're here. That's why we're doing that, because it has completely changed my life, and it can change anybody's life. You just have to do it the right way.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. And I appreciate the heart behind you wanting to be able to provide value in that way and save people from some headaches. Learn from the lessons of Ken's 25 plus years of investing and experience, detail and care about the numbers and underwriting. So yeah, make sure that you guys are checking them out over at KRI. Well, Ken, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. I greatly appreciate you taking some time out of your day, sharing your wisdom, your knowledge, your experience with our listeners and with me. I always appreciate that. So yeah, thank you so much and enjoy your day. Aloha.
Well, same to you. Thanks so much for having me.
Mahalo. Thank you. All right. Great episode with Ken G. Greatly appreciate him coming on the show and kind of sharing with us his wisdom and expertise over 25 years of operating in the business. He got an awesome start working for Deloitte and having the CPA background. Obviously, he's a guy who loves the numbers. And obviously that's incredibly important when you're dealing with commercial underwriting. And so he obviously had that additional background with commercial lending. So that's a huge benefit to anybody that's all the deals basically that they're putting into. So you're giving us some great insight on that and how important it is to get that right from the get-go, right? Too often times we just jump into trying to make something happen and then get you in a lot of trouble, especially right now with the way interest rates are. And really when you start dealing with the scale and numbers of commercial, it's not like a single family house, right? So the debt service, the debt load can be incredibly high when you start getting into some of these kind of bigger deals. And even not a massive deal. If you're buying a 10 unit, 15 unit, if that's not something you're prepared for income wise to meet the debt service, that could really sink you. So Ken had some great insight on that. Obviously that's something that they offer as well, an underwriting course to be able to properly underwrite, to operate or to underwrite conservatively, making sure that you're trying to cross the T's and dot the I's, do it in a way that's of course valuable for you as an individual, but if you're bringing on investor capital as well, something that's immeasurably important. But yeah, no, appreciate Ken coming on the show. So make sure you guys are checking him out over at KRI. If you guys are interested in connecting with us, go to tricityequity.com. You can schedule a call with our team to learn more about what we've got going on. If you're here locally, of course, in Hawaii and Honolulu specifically, we do have a monthly meetup, Honolulu Multifamily and More. We try to do that every month. It's in a beautiful setting. So we'd love to come out. If you're visiting or if you're local and you're hearing this, make plans to be there. It's an awesome setting over on the east side of Honolulu. We'd love to meet you, shake a hand, kind of put a face to the name and learn a little bit more about how we can potentially work together. And if not, totally fine. We can educate and glad to share our experience. If you guys are finding value in the podcast, of course, we'd love a 5-star review. Make sure that you're sharing the episode. If you're finding value, make sure that you're sharing it with somebody else so you think that might benefit from the type of content that we're putting out. And then, of course, make sure that you're making plans to, if you're on island, if you're not on an island, make sure to make plans next July 10th through the 13th. We're going to have the Hawaii Millionaire Mindset Conference. It'll be the 3rd year of having the conference. You're going to come out and meet hundreds of other investors and multiple great speakers with a variety of industries, providing tons of great insight, both from an entrepreneurial perspective, from business operations to real estate investing. It's just an excellent conference. So make sure that you guys are making plans to be there. All right, guys. Well, that's going to be it for me today. Signing off until next time. Go out, take some action, and we will see you next time. Aloha.